be live. Let's see if I can get this in a better place so I can see the chat better. That should work. All right, so welcome everyone for day 2. I've got the chat showing now, so I should be able to, answer any of the questions you might have. My coworker will be back with us soon. You know how meetings go. That is some good tea. It is the Earl Grayer. I think tomorrow I might mix it up a bit, but today we're sticking with this one. It's pretty good. Okay, so got time for, people might start showing up. Let me know when you get here. Let's chat. Let's say hi. In the meantime, right, just remember we are doing DevDays24 or DEVEXDAYS24. That's it. And basically the sale ends on August 25th. You can get up to 80% off. So if you've wanted to give some of the pro features of GitKraken Desktop, GitLens, CLI, etc., you want to give those a try, now's the best time to get in there and do it. There is a free trial, but for 80% off, it's basically free anyway, isn't it? Now, some of the features we're showing are pretty nifty. Let's see. We're not going to have much of a launchpad I can show you right now, but let me just showcase it one more time. So here we go. This is the CLI tool version of Launchpad. And in here, you can see all sorts of stuff. Is this pre-recorded? No, it isn't. So yeah, what's up there? Tamanath? I don't know how to pronounce that name. I'm sorry, the character's a little hard for me to read. Could be the font. And what's up, Kyle? How you doing? Is this pre-recorded though? No, it is not. This is me live. I'm going to be doing some live coding. I am doing a bit of like some spiel, like shilling stuff of letting you know about DEVEXDAYS24, which is kind of like the occasion for us trying out this stream. Today is day number 2, so hopefully less hiccups compared to streaming yesterday. And yeah, just kind of showcasing why you might want to get in and use the DEVEXDAYS24 code and get up to 80% off of GitKraken. So totally worth it. Up to you though. And I'm just showcasing at least some of the cool features that I think make it worth paying for, right? It's not just a GUI for Git. It's an entire platform that has features like Launchpad, so you can actually see your pull requests and issues right here in your terminal. Hold on. I might have just gotten a notification I need to be aware of. Okay, looks like we're good. So yeah, how y'all doing out there? I can actually see chat today, which is great. So yeah, big thing we're going to be doing today is I reached out to the XDism crew and figured out what our bug was yesterday. So if we look at the terminal here, you can actually see a hello world, but the hello world only worked because I added this allow host, which allows us to actually make requests out to other places. Otherwise, I was getting this error, which was HTTP request to swappy dev API people 1 not allowed. Now, the reason that is actually security reasons. You may not want to actually let people make requests from a plugin, or you may want to restrict what domains they can actually hit. So kind of useful, kind of cool. But if you want to just allow anything, you can also just allow star. So what we're going to end up doing here in a minute is we're doing just a basic GET request in our code. And I tried doing a POST request, but the POST request did not work. So something's up there. And basically, for a little more context, I am giving a talk at SquiggleConf, and I will be talking about XDism, which is a way of doing plugins for your applications and allowing those plugins to be written in basically any language that compiles to WASM, which is really cool. So XDism is basically they have a bunch of like wrappers around SDKs and standard library stuff and like how to build these things out. They have a CLI tool. They have a lot of like the rigmarole that would go into making WASM actually be a good intermediate layer between your plugin system and your application. And why is that useful? Well, for something like the CLI tool that we have in GitKraken, that is a Go program that is compiled to a binary. So you can't just like modify the source as you see fit. And we don't want to have to modify our application to turn on plugins for the user, etc. We want you to be able to like add whatever plugins you want. So the idea would be we start dynamically bringing in plugins that you want to allow as maybe a new command line filter or something. So maybe it would be like GK Launchpad -- plugin, foo.wasm for now, right? We could allow you to add your own plugins, and maybe you would even want to like alias these things yourself. But that would allow you to maybe send some telemetry out to your own servers. It would allow you to collect metrics or write to files as logs or something. I don't know the full extent of why we would want to allow these plugins, but I just want to see if it's even possible. And I think it would be a good talk at SquiggleConf about XDism and how this stuff works. Some of the, quirky things that might not be obvious from the start, like HTTP requests need to actually use methods from their plugin development kit rather than standard library. That's true for Go and JavaScript so far. And the hosts have to be explicitly allowed. So some of these things aren't just immediately obvious until you're digging into it. So yeah, I'm going to continue some of the live coding of figuring out how to wire this stuff up, figuring out what bugs we have, and trying to make this thing work. So kind of fun. Hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions about what I'm doing, go ahead and ask from any platform. So I saw one comment from Twitter. I saw one comment from YouTube, and theoretically LinkedIn should work as well. We're not doing the Instagram today because I think we needed to like reset the stream key or something. So I think that's fine. We might miss a day on Insta, but we're live on 3 other platforms at least. I like this lo-fi music they give us too. This is nice. All right, it's not too distracting. All right, so thinking about what we're trying to do now, we've got this go main go. And one thing I might want to do, because this is getting a bit time consuming doing the whole like restarting stuff, I may want to do nodemon. And have that simply recompile our project. Yep. Yeah, so this is probably what we're going to want to do here. So I'm gonna open up a new tab here. Get Kraken private. This is going to be inside of CLI plugin. And from there, we just want to do something like this, but we don't have NodeMon installed globally. Hey, what's up, Shashi? How you doing? Yeah, did you catch any of that spiel about like what I'm working on right now? I figure as people come in, I'll probably have to repeat myself a bit, which is totally fine. We're doing a promotion for DEVEXDAYS24, which means you can get up to 80% off of the GitKraken license, right? For a year of GitKraken. Up to 80% off depending on your location. That's a great deal. I forget what that actually comes out to, but it's really good. And yeah, if you're on a team, that also includes up to 33% off of additional proceeds. So if you're looking to get this going for a team, definitely check it out. Yeah, for the first proceeds. That would be like for you signing up for it. You get it for the full year. You get all the pro features. It goes way longer than just a free trial. Okay, yeah, no worries, Shashi. So, and yeah, real quick, we got Shashi out here. He's one of our ambassadors. Really awesome dude. Has a great stream in which he's doing the Gridiron Survivors, I think is the name of it, right? And it's just, he's working with some people who are newer to tech, helping them actually understand what working on a team is like, because that's something you don't usually get when you're brand new to tech and possibly like self-learning. So I think it's really cool, like awesome thing you're doing there. But the thing I am specifically working on is I'm going to be giving a talk at SquiggleConf. Look at that handsome individual. And, you know, I'm basically a WASM fanatic. I am a big fan of WebAssembly in general. And my talk is actually going to be about using WebAssembly for creating plugin systems for your applications. So because our GitKraken CLI tool is a Go tool, if you wanted to extend it, you couldn't just hack on it. So instead, you would have to, or we would have to give you some mechanisms for plugins. And the power of WASM-based plugins means that you could write your plugin system in anything you want instead of requiring that there's some kind of like C-style interop. So yeah, like you could write your plugins with Rust, Go, Zig, JavaScript, all sorts of stuff. Pretty nifty. And I am simply doing some discovery on what that is, how it works. I've been fascinated with XDism for quite a long time. Also just fascinated with WASM ever since Gary Bernhardt's Birth and Death of JavaScript talk. But I haven't actually used XDism yet. Shh, don't tell SquiggleConf. I think it's fine. This is just, you know, accepted proposal driven development. And we are, yeah, getting some good discovery on how it works, how to mess with it, and eventually I will be crafting some slides based around this learning. So yeah, does that catch everyone up on what we're kind of doing today? That's at least the gist. I probably need to put that into some kind of command. That way it would be a little bit easier. The part that I'm on specifically today is I needed to figure out how to make HTTP requests because we were getting an error that said HTTP request to swappydev API people 1 is not allowed. The reason that is actually because you need to explicitly allow hosts. So at first, you know, I tried it with allow host swappydev, which is the Star Wars API, and it worked. So then I tried messing with localhost and ran into issues there because I'm doing a post instead of a get. So the get request worked. I ran into issues with the post request. But in another experiment, we are also allowed to pass a star for the allowed host, which is nice. So theoretically, we haven't gotten into putting this or getting this plugin into the CLI tool yet. just because it's easier to maybe like test the things individually instead of trying to test it from a high level after getting all of it going. But we do see that allow host here works. How we do that from the Go code is going to be a little different. So I'm not sure where we end up doing that part. It's most likely in the plugin config here. And that is most likely in the runtime config, maybe? I don't know. We're going to have to go look at it. But let's go look at plugin config. And that opened in the wrong place for me. And then if we look at runtime config, that's with core features, memory limit, capacity from max. Okay, so it's probably not the runtime features. So instead, let's go back. It might be here in module config instead. Aha. So if we wanted to do file system stuff, that would also require explicitly allowing it. Okay. Right? Writing to standard out and standard in. Probably something that you want to lock down as well. So yeah, really just making sure that you're only exposing the functionality you care about via plugins is important. So yeah, there is definitely some sandboxing to how these plugins work. And I think that's actually really important. I just wasn't aware of it. But I don't see where the host config would be. So host shows up quite a bit here, but it's tricky because host isn't exactly what we're looking for. Because in this context, host is the application that's going to be running the plugins. But we're looking for like HTTP hosts. So we got to figure that part out. I don't think host function builder is related whatsoever. So we got 52 instances of the word host. I wish I could make the search case sensitive. And hey, what's up, Ryan? How you doing? Welcome. And hold on. We're going to do a makeshift set of commands. That way I can not have to lose my voice saying the same exact things over and over, but I at least want to get people caught up on what we're doing. So, project is this command. You missed yesterday's? You're glad you can tune in today? Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you for chiming in. What I'm going to be doing is, let me at least explain out what the project is while I'm typing out this command, and then I'll have it for other people. And hey, what's up, FD? How you doing, Mr. Sir? A couple of the people here in the audience are from my Twitch stream on my personal channel, so I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out. So the project is, let me start out this way. I got accepted for a talk to SquiggleConf, which is a conference about dev tools in Boston in October. And let me put the link in there, just guys. Okay. The talk is about extism and making and using WASM as a compatibility layer for plugin systems. I am exploring adding plugin support to our Git Kraken CLI tool. And I think that's good for a command. We don't want to overload the command. So yeah, there we go. Let me just make sure I can type this and paste it over. Cool. So it looks like that only goes out to YouTube. So we can't actually paste over to LinkedIn or Twitter from here. Okay. So that's where I may want to have my coworker, when they join in, like make sure that they are responding back with links to Twitter and LinkedIn. So, okay. I'm still new to Restream. Someone is reaching out for a meeting today. Sorry, coworker asked a question. But okay, so figuring out Restream. You need to get it set up through OBS. Makes sense. Yeah, so I'm using OBS for like the, my camera and the screen capture. But yeah, I need to figure out the chat system better. I almost want to make my own bot. But, typical streamer stuff. So, okay. That is the project part. Today, which will change over time. What we're doing today Okay, so we need to get the HTTP GET request, or we got that working, right? And I just needed to explicitly allow the host domain. All right, so yeah, just making sure I got a good way of pasting some of this. Oh, and cool. Oh, I actually really like this. So I can actually highlight your comments as well. I forgot about that feature. So yeah, when you have a question, if I think it's a really good one for all the other platforms, I'll just make sure I click the question to show it on screen. I just got to remember to do that. But real quick, let me get rid of this hoodie. I woke up and it was a little chilly, but it is still August, so yeah, don't need the hoodie anymore. And yeah, huge shout out to Growth Book. I really like these shirts. This is a nice shirt. Oh, in the link I did? Oh, okay. Space before the bracket? Okay, and is that only on YouTube? Because it looks like it worked on Restream, but Restream is just parsing the link better. Okay. So, and I think you mean inside the brackets, right? Before the closing one? Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the feedback, FD. All right, so I'm wondering, do they show me viewership numbers on this UI? No, I don't see it. I'm gonna turn the fan down. There we go. All right, so here's our commands for when people ask. Awesome. And let's get back to figuring out what's going on here. So if I look at my code, I'm trying to make an HTTP request to my local server. Now, we did do some work to allow like a non-port, as well as, oh, and hold on, the 3000 wouldn't work anyway. So hold on, I have to get rid of that. Oh, and I remember, yeah, I was setting up a command to recompile this as we change files. So let me do that as well. So in here, we got nodemon. There is, is there a yarn equivalent of npx? All right, well, do I have npm? So yeah, here's what we'll do. We're in this folder. Make build is the command we want to run, and the file we want to watch is main.go. So now we're going to be watching that main.go, and it'll actually run our build for us so that we can actually do our testing and call it good. Is it yarn DLX? Ooh, that's probably it. It doesn't matter. NPX still works. It's independent of yarn anyway. Or independent of NPM anyway. So that's fine. But good point. All right, making sure I am centered in the screen properly. Yeah, looks all right. So let me just change, hold on, if I click save, this kicks off again. see TinyGo. And then, all right, so I don't need to keep clicking over to that tab because the TinyGo part will disappear. And yeah, NPX works great. I really like that feature of Restream, being able to like highlight someone's message. It's really good. Ooh, I am sore from golfing the other day. So, okay. Basically, anytime I click that save function or the save command here, we're going to end up recompiling, which is fine. So then over in here, this is the error we get. So we get Wasm error unreachable. So typically when I get an error like this, oh, and we got to let the application finish recompiling. Typically when I get an error that I'm not sure about, I just go and start eliminating things to where we're as like minimal as possible, because there might be just like one of these things I was doing that didn't work. So our server here is running. Let's try this again. Server doesn't get hit. And we fail out at basically the same place. Yeah, I see main.go 676.16. I wish that actually made some sense, because our file is not that big. Definitely not. So something is off there. Oh, hold on. Nope, that's it. That part needed to stay commented. So that might have been the entire problem right there, because we can't use Go's standard library because we're using, or not we're using, but the Wasm is compiled with TinyGo, and TinyGo doesn't ship the standard library as far as I know. So that gives you some issues. But also, I think HTTP is sandboxed from being added to the TinyGo compiled stuff as well because of security reasons. So maybe now will it blend? I feel like we would have failed out by now. And ooh, I think it blended. Yeah, we got an undefined, which isn't good, but we at least had the endpoint get hit, which is huge. Okay. So now we need to look at what's going on here. So we did a rec.body. That is what was undefined. Let's at least do this. Request body. And yeah, since we're not using the express listen because we need to pass stuff to HTTPS create server, we just have to do it this way. So that's fine. And this is what allows us to do the localhost like secure version which I don't think is actually the issue. So if we were to change this back to 3000, I bet we'd be fine. But whatever, we've got it this way now. Let's just keep fiddling with it. So we're going to stop and restart this server. I should probably at least throw a log saying that it's like ready and started. That's fine. So here we see a non-zero exit code of 1 because something failed out for us. And my guess is that it's because we didn't actually send a response in our node code. Yeah, so that hung. Let me restart this again. And then if we do this, we should actually see it end. So it was hanging before because we, we weren't actually sending a response. So it was just sitting there waiting for the response. So now that we get this back, we see request body is still undefined, which is curious because looks to me like we sent one. Let's actually make it to where we're logging the entire request. And I don't actually plan on messing with the node server that much. So I don't think nodemon is necessary for this. We could do it though. Honestly, we should, right? And I know there is definitely a simpler command we could do for nodemon, but we have this auto-completed, so why not? All right, so looks like that ran. I do want to do one thing here, which is we see a dot listen dot is there another thing we can pass here? So we can pass a callback. Yep. Yeah. Server started on port. So there we go. Bam. Let's see. So what do we think is coming through there? We send this call again. We get the response back. Node logs a whole bunch of stuff for us. All right, that's the whole request. We see nothing in params, nothing in query. Where would we see our headers? And yeah, I may want to fine tune how we're doing some of this. Okay, so what we see so far is we can see the method post, we can see the URL was echo, perfect. The raw headers, we get content type application JSON. Yep. Tells us the client. It gives us a content length of 2. That doesn't seem right, because our content length should be bigger than that, right? It should be that payload. I think that's about all we really needed from this so far. And yeah, we're getting a lot of like redundant request stuff in here. So yeah, fine tuning what I log out is going to be really useful here in a minute. So let's go to here, and instead of that, let's just do headers. Server restarted, and we can rerun this. And there we see the headers. All right, so that's, yeah, cleaner. So I guess now we need to look at XDism. And their documentation. Okay, so one thing is we can send and receive JSON from the plugins. That is not quite what we were looking for, though. Okay. And they even do have the HTTP stuff. So yeah, I just didn't read far enough into the PDK docs. Yep, that was on me. So let's look at this example they might have. So we see an HTTP GET. Still an HTTP request, though. So yeah, a post request would be really nice to see in their examples. But we can go back to their docs. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any chat. Cool. All right, the HTTP stuff is down here. Hold on. Yep. The reason we didn't get anything on that is because we didn't make it public. So TinyGo is running. I always forget that about Go. Yes, even when you're marshalling and unmarshalling, right? Any property needs to be annotated as public for use in that. Now, I believe there is a way of sending it lowercase, and I forget what that annotation looks like, but we can just go look at it. I just want to see whatever we get as something that we can see logged out in our node code. So that didn't do it. Body is still undefined. So let me comment this for now. And instead, we're going to hard code what we're sending just to see. And we'll just do, oh, not that. Okay, so we'll hard code that body and see if that works. Now this might be on my end because I don't have an appropriate body parser. I thought it might be raw body in here. That might be a big part of it. So I might need to set up a body parser for the JSON. I do only see raw headers, so raw body shouldn't be it. All right, so yeah, I think that is still on me. If I don't set the content type, can we at least just get like the raw string? Oh, app crashed. Oh, payload declared but not used. Yeah. So we're just fiddling with this a little bit. And that would have been our problem already. So maybe that wasn't the issue. We just didn't actually finish building. And hey, what's up, Frenzy? How you doing? So, just to, while we're compiling anyway, the reason we are streaming is we are doing a celebration of DEVEXDAYS24. It's a promotion where you can get up to 80% off of your first pro seat license for GitKraken, which is huge. It's basically free at that point. And then you can still get 33% off for other people on your team that you also want to invite and collaborate with. Because GitKraken is more than just a GUI for Git at this point. It is a DevX platform in which we have features like the commit graph, where you can visualize and see things about how your team works together. We have things like Launchpad, which is where you can actually be in your in GitLens. You can be in the CLI tool that we have, and you can see all of your issues and pull requests. So really useful stuff. You're a designer? That's fine. I think designers still end up committing code from time to time. Could be useful. As a designer, you may not be as savvy with Git when you do so, so a desktop GUI makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? But even being able to see all of your issues that are assigned to you, right? All of your tasks, etc., from Jira, from Azure DevOps, from a bunch of places, Trello, etc., GitHub projects or issues or whatever there. All of that can be assigned to you, and you can track that in one place instead of maybe managing multiple repos and having to check those one by one via different tabs. So I think there's still value to it. Kind of just getting all of the issues assigned to you if you work on multiple projects, visible in one place. Looks like my coworker just joined in. Cool. And yeah, no worries, coworker. Did you actually list your name as coworker? If so, that's awesome. I just see the little C icon. So coworker, one thing that I don't think was obvious is when we send a message through Restream, it only goes out to YouTube right now. So when people have questions over on LinkedIn or Twitter, we need to reply over on those platforms as well. Yep. Yeah, no worries. And one thing to help you with some of that, I'm going to send you these, like what our plans are for today. So when someone asks like, hey, what's going on here? If I don't see it in time, feel free to send this over to them. And I'm just going to send this over here in our Slack chat. So yeah, there's just some boilerplate. And then feel free to maybe craft some boilerplate around what our promotion is and why people should probably go sign up using that coupon code. All right, so if I do this request, we see over here, request body is still undefined. We do see the content length is 16 and 17 though. So yeah, I think we just need to add a body parser for Express. All right, so we need to add body parser. All right, so const body parser, and then here we want to do app.use body parser.json. And we want to do that. After that, we want to get that going, which I should probably just put into a command in in our package JSON. Okay, so our server is started. If we do this, I took away that header, but we get it parsed anyway because I think Go is setting the... Hold on, wait. Let me look at my Go code again. We did set the content type back to application JSON. Okay. So, boom, we actually get this value out and we can log it. Perfect. So now that we've gotten this like wiring working, I probably want to start figuring out like how to wire it up into the CLI tool. And that is over here. So this is where, yeah, let me shuffle things around so I'm working on the right thing in the right place and don't confuse myself. We're not going to be doing that count vowels WASM. We're going to be loading hours. Right now, what does WASM URL here look like? Oh, and I guess, hold on, we're not quite done because we hard-coded the JSON that we're sending over, which means, you know, that's not ideal. So instead, if we do this and set that back, that'll have to recompile. You see that TinyGo is building. Ooh, and yeah, we are going to be sponsoring some open source projects. I've got a thread on Twitter as well, where I, checked to see what people are thinking, what they would like to see sponsored. Replying to there or sending a message here in chat. But we're trying to compile a big old list of open source projects. And Coworker, there may be enough over in that list, like over in that thread, that we could probably get that poll going today. For the first one at least. And yeah, I can help get the actual GitHub links. Some projects might not have sponsorship set up, so it just depends. But yeah, at least like going over and kind of curating a little bit of the responses. I didn't have time to do that yet. So anyway, but yeah, we're trying to give, like a grand total of about $1,000 to open source. We're going to try and spread that around to maybe 5 projects. We're going to have a poll of projects to choose from. Hopefully each day. We didn't get it done yesterday, but we're working on it. So we may continue a little into next week, and that's fine. But yeah, what open source projects do you think, would need a little bit of a boost? I know it's not like a crazy amount of money, but it's still pretty cool, right? So we're trying to give back. We are a startup, of course, so some of the bigger companies out there, some of them actually do really good about like allowing their employees to just give, there's like a budget for them to give money each year. I think that's really respectable, but not enough companies do that. And yeah, the big ones can afford it. But yeah, so back to what we're doing here, right? That built. So we send that. Do we actually get a body? We do. Okay, sweet. All right, so the body parser was the biggest problem we had. Also, the fact that this was not lowercase. We do see uppercase name right here. So that means, yeah, we should do, I think it's just, hold on, I forget this part. Golang, JSON. Oh, hold on, I wanted to go by example. Here we go. Yes, so this part right here, I need to annotate that property. Do I put the comma before it? Nope. Oh, hold on. I'm doing it in the wrong place. That gets the comma. It's here that we put that. So then this is just name. All right, so we compile that. Looks like TinyGo is doing its thing. And we see lowercase name now. Perfect. Okay, so I would say we've got this part working as expected now. Don't need to hard code. Don't need to do that. So our next step then, we need to wire up to our CLI tool. And in doing that, we need to figure out the right way to pass this file path. If we look at what can go in Wasm here, oh, keeps popping up in the wrong place. There we go. Yeah, if we head to here, so the to Wasm data. That doesn't seem like what we're looking for there. So maybe, hold on, xdism dot, Wasm file. So then this would be something like, what's our path over here? So it's users, Chris Griffin. Okay, just double checking the full path. We're gonna do an absolute path here for now. So yeah, file users get Kraken private CLI plugin plugin.wasm. Now they hate it. So hold on, I need to look at what actually goes in there. So it would be path instead of file. Got it. Easy enough. Okay. Ooh, and I can actually double check the chat over in the live stream on Twitter. So yeah, sweet. Okay, so we've got these things. We loaded in 2 awesome plugins, which is nice. Right, we're hard coding the full path to it right now instead of letting it be something we pass in via a Cobra command line flag. That's fine for now. Let's just see what we got here. So we're going to call 3. And here it's going to be hello world as what we're doing. That does mean that over here in the CLI, I need to do a rebuild. And this takes a little bit longer. So how's everyone doing? What y'all up to? And yeah, just keep in mind, DEVEXDAYS24 going on right now. If you use that coupon code, you can get up to 80% off of your first Pro seat. So yeah, if you have been thinking about paying for GitKraken, now is the time. Just remember, it's more than just a GUI for Git. It's an entire platform in which we enable like cross-team collaboration features, things such as Launchpad, Cloud Patches, etc. So really worth checking out. The commit graph is beautiful. I've heard several people say that's one of the main reasons they use GitKraken. I personally think Launchpad is our coolest feature, because if you work on multiple repos and you're using GitHub for your issues and tracking that stuff, it can be really annoying to have to like switch from repo to repo to see what issues are assigned to you, right? What issues are hanging that you could pick up, you know, what PRs and their status are. You can actually get all of that in one place with Launchpad, and that is in the desktop client we have. It's in getkraken.dev, which is our web application, which works mobilely, and also in our CLI tool, which is what we're hacking on right now. So one of our first things might be building out an integration to Launchpad, and I don't know, just sending that to an arbitrary plugin that lets us log that stuff to our file system, or maybe sends it to a server or something. We're experimenting and trying to figure out what that looks like and how much fun it might be. So yeah, we built that. Let's see. /dist gk launchpad. So failed to initialize plugin module name collision. So I think our issue here is that those are colliding, but I'm not 100% certain. It does seem that way. So yeah, the module name was the issue there. So we do have to rebuild. That wasn't as long as I thought, though. Aha! So failed to initialize plugin, module WASI snapshot preview 1 not instantiated. Yeah, so same error. Did we have a failure building? No, so our plugin should be good. I think part of what we're trying to do, though, is we need to figure out how to allow the host. I'm not sure what that iTerm2 feature is, where it keeps like selecting and highlighting responses. It's a little annoying. It's what I get for updating. So basically, when we ran the plugin command over here, you can see that we're doing allow host, which is what allows the plugin to actually make a request to a domain name. And you could have it scoped to specific domain names if you want to lock down security for what your plugins can do, etc. For the sake of testing, star is fine. But I don't see where we actually pass like the allowed host to our host application, right? This is going to get confusing, but yeah, the host application is the GK CLI. The host that we're trying to hit is actually like the domain name we're trying to hit, and we got to figure out where to set that. So maybe it goes in the manifest. There it is. Yeah, allowed hosts. Oh, expected type. I thought the type was explicit. Oh, hold on. Right. I'm messing this up. Okay. I don't think that is our main issue. Oh, yeah, that's going to fail because we need to rebuild. And yeah, anyone have any questions or anything, you want to understand about the project? Feel free to ask. Happy to answer. All right, so still failed to initialize plugin. Module WASI snapshot preview not instantiated. I am not sure about that error. We're going to have to find out. So that's not quite the same issue there. Okay. So I don't think this one is actually related to what we're looking for. And let me just double check. Just making sure. Coworker didn't need anything from me. And yeah. There was no help for that in there. So maybe I need to go look at the XDism docs. Not for the Go PDK, but now for the Go SDK. So we see here they did a context.background, which we're doing. We see a plugin config. That would be config for the specific plugin, probably. Okay, that's a little trickier. You see CTX manifest config. XDism host function. Yep. Yes, we're doing all that. And okay, so if we look at the output, failed to initialize plugin, that is the issue. So we're actually getting to this specific error right here. Is that the right file path? Let me double check that. So CLI plugin ls, we do see plugin.wasm there. So here's another thought. Hold on, let me look at this. Wasm file here takes in a path, a hash, or a name. What if instead I copy that plugin Wasm and we serve it up from our node server? I forget how to navigate to the beginning of the string. Oops. All right, so this is going to be copy that, and we're going to paste it to... we'll just paste it to here right now. But I need to make a directory for public stuff. And we'll just move plugin Wasm into there. There's a very strange sound coming from that window over there, I think. Hopefully it's coming from the window and not somewhere in my apartment. Sounds like a snake hissing, though. It's not good. This is Washington. I don't think we even have snakes. Not Seattle, at least. No, I'm sure there's like garter snakes and smaller stuff. But okay, so yeah, we have this public folder. What I think I want to do for our Echo server is serve up that public folder, and then we can fetch from it using our host application. All right, let's at least try that. But I forget how to do that. So express public, or JS static files. Here we go. Yeah, express.static. But yeah, we're gonna do it that way. All right. We do need to restart that server. And then from here, let's just copy what we got. And the URL is actually a lot simpler. It's going to be in public, though. Let's double check that that is actually fetchable. Yep, looks like it downloaded. So now we need to rebuild the CLI. And yeah, for the most part, we're just doing a lot of discovery about this stuff, seeing what's possible, how it works. When we run into a roadblock, we just try and find some other way around it, and we can always figure out what the roadblock was later. But this is me getting around possibly a file system-based bug. Like maybe I pathed to it wrong, or some permissions or something. And then, yeah, we can just do the GK Launchpad and see if we get the same error. And we do. Interesting. So let's just double check this still works. Yeah, the node server works. The -- WASI part, that's it. So we're not actually passing that in our Go code anymore. So where do we actually enable WASI in here? That's important. That's what I'm missing. So it doesn't matter if we're doing the file system thing or the URL, but I at least wanted to verify because we did have the URL part. But because we're doing HTTP request stuff, I think that requires the WASI. Which then means, yep, we need to enable that somehow. I think maybe in config, enable WASI true. All right, so then, yeah, this should work. Let's go rebuild. And yeah, for everyone unaware, WASI is the WebAssembly System Interface. So basically, if you want to do any I/O of any kind inside of your WebAssembly, you basically have to use WASI. Now, that is not necessarily the case for browser-based WASM. I think you can do HTTP requests without anything crazy there, but don't quote me on that one. But yeah, it does kind of make sense that WASM itself is like a self-contained. WASI is bindings to your system to do IO type stuff, right? File system or network or whatever. So when you're doing network stuff, you absolutely need WASI. When we were doing the count vowels thing, not necessary. So now if we do this, will it blend? It blended. So we're not logged in right now because we're using a different tool, right? We're using our own self-compiled one. But hey, here we go. We see hello world. But yeah, that means we were able to make a request while launching our application, loading a dynamic-ish plugin. That's pretty awesome. Let's switch it back to the file system just to make sure that still works. And yeah, I'm stoked on this. We're making some pretty good progress. Now, right now, we're just doing go to go. But maybe the next step is we give it a shot of making the same exact thing in JavaScript. That could be worthwhile. Or maybe even Rust. I at least want to stick with a language I'm somewhat familiar with. I don't necessarily want to spin up a Zig plugin yet, because I haven't done any Zig yet. But we do get that built. We do see this run. And yep, same thing, able to run it and launch it. Totally good to go. Cool. So we'll get rid of these. Either one of these worked. So I'm glad, right? Yep. Basically just adding notes for myself in the future. And really, let's pull that out into our actual note file. So we don't need to pivot to trying local file system writes or logging yet, but that is something we may want to get to eventually. All right, just to see how it works. Let's actually try building out a different plugin in a different language. So let's try making a JavaScript plugin for a Go application, because I think that is where it becomes really, really interesting, using WASM as an intermediate layer. So let's do that. And how are we on time? Yeah, 11:30, good to go. So yeah, I already really like this. You know, this is an experimental thing. This is not necessarily something we're guaranteed to ship. But as far as an experiment goes, I would consider this experiment successful so far. Like figuring out what we would want to actually expose to a plugin ecosystem would be useful. But just as far as extensibility goes, We could get XDism into our GitKraken desktop application. We could get it into our CLI. I think it would be a little tougher to do it for like the web, but one thing that maybe we can't do is I tried doing this for GitLens as like a trial thing, and I think I was missing the fact that I needed to allow hosts. So we may try integrating this with GitLens as well, and that would be really awesome to have pretty much like one framework for how we wire up and allow plugins for all of our ecosystem. So that could be cool. Now, how we wire up config for those things, that would be different. But yeah, I'm liking this so far. Right? Like, as a developer advocate, I'm just thinking of all the content I could make about, hey, let's make a plugin for GitKraken. Right? That sounds fun, doesn't it? But okay, yeah, I really like the progress so far. Let's go and make a new plugin. We're gonna maybe close this one first and rename it. So we got CLI here, CLI plugin there. We're gonna move CLI plugin to CLI plugin go. And then from here, we're gonna wanna do an XDism, not call, but gen. And we're gonna do plugin JS. I think TS actually, we can do TypeScript. Yep, and they do some scaffolding. They create the TS config file for us. They create the ES build JS config, package JSON dependencies. Awesome. So let's head into it. And coworker, I'm really thinking some of this like XDism stuff, if we could get like a good edit of that together, I think the company behind XDism, DialibSO or whatever, would actually be really interested in some of that and might help us like cross promote it. So definitely something to think about. But you know, not the highest priority, but just content idea. And yeah, coworker, if you are out there, they mentioned they were getting some lunch. Should I keep calling you coworker? Or, you know, like, do you want your name out there? Like, I'm totally fine with either one. I just didn't want to dox you without your permission. Okay. Okay, cool. So my coworker is Allison. She's great. She does a lot of our social media stuff and like editing a lot of our shorts and just really cool stuff, helps manage our ambassadors. Like she does the main management of our ambassadors. I help, but you know, yeah, she's great. So yeah, thanks, Allison. Now, what happened here? Yeah, no worries. Something is making it to where I can't click anything with this mouse. I think My VS Code died on me. I think I need to completely kill it. So that's not ideal. Let's pop that open again. Visual Studio obviously wanted to update really badly. That's why they locked it up on me. I get it now. I know your tricks. And yeah, how's everyone out in chat? What y'all up to? Anything fun? Enjoying your Tuesday? It's a wonderfully rainy Tuesday here in Washington. This is my favorite version of Washington, besides like winter Washington. Seattle summers? Ugh. I know I'm in the minority on that opinion. Okay, let's close some of these tabs that we don't need. Let's clean that up a bit. I think that was fine. Oh, this is a really cool library. Yeah, man, really, really cool. I'm going to share this out to YouTube at least. It's like not even like a package you would install. It's just like a collection of like, hey, you want to make a request from Wasm? Well, yeah, you know, there's like wrappers that you kind of have to use for that. And you can totally like just pick like, hey, are you like what language are you compiling to Wasm? How are you going to do that? If you're using Golang, there's Capsule, XDism, Spin, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's XDism PDK for Haskell, right? And this is for standalone server-side WASI runtimes. For browser and V8 runtimes, there may be certain things that do the, like basically, I think when you're doing it in the browser from Wasm, you're basically sending bindings that end up calling like fetch from like the main thread as you pass stuff back to the other thread. But I'm not 100% certain on that. But yeah, like just really cool. Oh, is there not a Python SDK for XDism? Let me go look at the XDism docs real quick. Well, we do see Python. No, so they do have a Python SDK, which means I assume they have a PDK as well. Oh, they don't. Okay. So the amount of languages they have a PDK built for is less so than the ones that they have SDKs built for. So just to keep that pretty clear, the PDK is what you build your plugins with. The SDK is what consumes those plugins. So yeah, the host SDKs fit in a lot more languages. But when you're writing a plugin, you are currently limited to JavaScript, TypeScript, AssemblyScript, Haskell, Go, Rust, C, Zig, and .NET. Okay. So I think for the sake of what I'm doing, I can focus on just the Rust, JavaScript, and Go. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'm liking this already. Yeah, this is great. Okay, so we got this. Hold on, did I pop open VS Code somewhere? I did. Let's shuffle it over. I probably don't need to open up the other editors right now. I do think I'm going to want to pop open the Go just to like make sure we're writing similar code between them. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. And it doesn't even need to be related to what I'm doing. If you have questions about Git Kraken or Git in general, feel free. So for the most part, if we go look at what was scaffolded in here, we've got our source, we've got the index.ts file, and it's a very simple file. Like we don't have to do the annotation like we thought. Let's see what they put over here for us. I find that a little interesting. So because host here is undefined, it's also an any. So that is something I do want to put in my notes. The TS note is basically could benefit from importable types, but I'm not certain that's the case because we do see for our dependencies there is xdism JS PDK. Maybe that is exporting that type that we care about, but if so, then wrong button. If it is, then what we would really want to do is make sure, like, we could always make a PR and add this import. So let's just try it. Oh, and my prettier isn't seeming to work right now. All right. So this is a problem because I didn't actually install yet. We'll just use yarn. Why not? Or they're doing a package lock. Do we see a minimum node version? We don't. What version do I have? 21? That's probably fine. Oh, and hold on. Wrong folder. Yeah. npm install. That'll give us TypeScript and the SDK or PDK. Interesting. Oh, and hold on. Yeah, it isn't a type. But it is still an any. Interesting. So is there another way of bringing in declarations? That was a bad answer right there. Ah, so that's it. We just had to import the SDK like that, or the PDK. So really, like, their boilerplate should have that line. Let's go do that. I might want to do that from my main GitHub rather than this GitHub account. So I'll just make a note. CLI scaffolded boilerplate would benefit from import it's at xdism Oop, that's the wrong place. So yeah, I think that would just improve the developer experience just a little bit when you're scaffolding something out. And it's open source, so we can totally like help fix it. Double check some stuff. All right, looks good there. I had one thought real quick. Go PDK. When we get to HTTP, right? I think another thing, and that would probably have to be like per PDK. WASI must be enabled maybe make a PR or issue for pointing that out inside the HTTP section of readmes. And I like this music. It's nice and chill. But ooh, we're getting close to time here. We're going to do the hello, hello thing there. Let me go look at the source code here. And, right, if we look at the JS PDK, that probably has a section for HTTP stuff too. Yep. And yeah, we need to bring in HTTP from their stuff. So yeah, we can create the request like this. And yeah, this code's probably going to hammer out fairly quickly. The request is going to be, oh, and type it code was the thing I was thinking of. Yes. All right, so this becomes post. The URL is localhost /echo. Let's see, request here. Interesting. That should not actually be an error. I think if we do as const, it fixes it. Okay. And then I guess here's the part. When we make this request, I would rather do this. And then from here, would it be body? No. Okay, so the HTTP request, body is actually part of that. Easy enough. So JSON.stringify, and this would then be name, and that would be this part. All right, so now we just need to compile this. Ooh, and we're getting close to time. I do have a meeting after this, but I think they'd be okay if I go a little over because I want to see this work. So what we're going to do is now here in package.json, we have this build, and we would just do yarn build, or I guess npm run build. Oh. Interesting. So that is maybe why it's not part of their boilerplate. And the xdism.js CLI tool is something I need to install. Oh, and actually we can just run the script. So those were already installed, but I believe the ESLint.js was necessary still. So now if we do that, xdism.js should be defined. We see this run and build, and hey, so now if we just go do the CLI stuff and change the location of where we're grabbing that plugin Wasm, we should be able to see this work. Let me double check where it put that. So it put it in dist. All right, so then this was make that. We shouldn't have to change anything other than that path because we're already doing the WASI. We're doing all that stuff here. And yeah, this is starting to feel really good. So now /dist gk launchpad, will it blend? Ooh, it did not blend. Because that needed to be an HTTPS from our plugin here. So we go back to plugin TS, rebuild it. And it blended. Yeah. All right. So that is a pretty successful day. Nice. All right. So, all right, just once again, we do 2 hours, like for this week, we're doing 2 hours live in which I am just like learning and building out this like presentation and what I'll be doing for this xdism stuff. Hope you're enjoying that. Hope you're having fun with it. We are doing this as a promotion for DEVEXDAYS24. After the 2 hours that I do, Allison will be playing some video content of ours related to developer experience, etc. I think it'd be awesome to like start us off with the long form, like what does DevX mean video. I really like that one. But yeah, like DevX Days is basically a promotion in which we have a major sale and you could get up to 80% off of your GitKraken Pro license, which is probably worth it. It's basically free at that point. So yeah, we're going to continue. I don't know what the schedule for content is today. We did some video from GitCon last year, which was fun. I'm not 100% certain, but Allison has a plan for the content and she will be taking over here as I hop into this meeting I am now late for. So yeah, this was fun. We're making really good progress. We're going to have to start brainstorming about like what would actually make sense plugin wise. I might want to just build out like the Rust one tomorrow too, just for fun. But then like actually what would a plugin that actually does something for GitKraken, right? For the CLI tool, what would that actually do? And that's going to take a little more brainstorming. I might even like reach out to some coworkers and see what they think too. So thank you all for hanging out. Really appreciate you letting me just code away in front of you, do some of my discovery about a thing that I haven't used yet, even though I got a talk accepted for it. Like, I think a lot of people do that. They create the title and the overview of what a talk will be. And then when they finally get accepted, they actually build it out. That's my process, at least. Because I just like giving talks. I like giving presentation, at conferences, etc. And I've done a lot of meetup talks to where I can pretty much like streamline the process. So I think it's fine. I don't think they're too bummed. But Allison, I will let you take over. I will disconnect myself, maybe throw us over to unblocking code collaboration stuff, and I can actually get it started.
Welcome back to our GitKraken workshop series. You're watching Unblocking
Allison
Code
is in, so I'm going to
Collaboration with
disconnect, and
GitKraken's
I will
Code
see y'all
Suggest
again tomorrow.
and Launchpad.
Later.
In case you've missed any of our past workshops, check out the link to the playlist below. We have all the recordings available to you right there. All right, without further ado, let's get into the workshop.
So yeah, Jonathan might not be able to talk, but I can be his voice, and we'll just kind of go from there. So thanks for joining, everyone. Sorry about the slight delay. We'll get right into this. We have some demos that we want to show you, but I just wanted to do a kind of quick highlight of what we're doing, right? We're talking about code collaboration and two new features that we have out. One called Code Suggest, which is brand new. One that is called Launchpad, which was previously known as Focus. And really what this is all about is trying to improve developer experience by unblocking teams. So if we go on to the next slide. Oh, this is us. This is me. I'm Justin Roberts. I'm a senior product director here at GitKraken. I just gave my backstory so you know a little bit more about me. Jonathan has also been at the company for a really long time, knows a lot about all of our products, and is typically the voice and face of GitKraken Desktop. We're also joined by Melise here, who's helping to man the chat. He's kind of the voice and face of Gitlin. So if you've seen any of those faces around, you've probably seen them on YouTube videos or on talks, but really happy to have all of you here joining us, and we're going to dive right in. So we talk about developer experience and shortened to DevX, and I hope that a lot of you have heard about this, and if you haven't, we'll do a kind of a really quick overview of what that is, talk about what some of the common PR pain points that we hear that teams have, that we even have here internally, and how Launchpad and Code Suggest help to solve those. And then if we have a little bit of time, we'll do some Q&A. So if you haven't seen yet, earlier this month, we announced a really big release that saw version 10 of GitKraken Desktop come out, version 15 of GitLens. We have a new CLI. We introduced a browser extension. We introduced GitKraken.dev on the browser. And all of these tools are really just part of a platform that we're building to help developers work better. So if you haven't tried any of those, I would definitely suggest going and trying, and I'll give you kind of a teaser as we get into the demo here of where some of the value of these features like Launchpad and Code Suggest will show up there. But it's really about trying to meet developers wherever they are, having the tools that we're building at GitKraken in any of those surfaces. Some devs might only work in a terminal, some might only work in VS Code, or they don't work in VS Code and they only work in some other IDE, but everyone uses a browser. Everyone uses a mobile phone typically, so we're trying to just make sure that we have coverage across all of those surfaces. So when we talk about developer experience, there's really kind of three things that we're trying to do by improving the developer experience. It's about shortening the feedback loops, the time between every task that you have to do, every time you need someone else to help you with something, to review a PR, to help pair with code. Those are all loops that require feedback from some other person, and the shorter you can make those loops, the faster you can get through the work, the better you feel about the place that you ended your day at. Reducing cognitive load is really just about the overall kind of load that you have in trying to do work, right? If you have to think a lot about all these different things, if you have poor documentation, if you can't find your way through the code base, it's going to take a long time to get things done. And really, these are just trying to serve maintaining flow state. So we all want to try to stay as much as possible in what we call our flow state. This is the place where we're really doing intense, thinking and working on things and trying to solve the problems that we want to be working on, not, doing things like getting Slack messages and getting messages about PRs and going into meetings. So the developer experience can kind of be boiled down into these three things. And what we're going to be talking about today is mostly around shortening feedback loops and kind of maintaining that flow state around pull requests. So if we go on to the next slide, some of the challenges that we hear about, and you've likely had these challenges yourself, is that pull requests, there's delays in collaboration. You invite someone to review your PR, they might not see that message for a couple of hours or a day. And those cause delays in getting pull requests merged in, right? Conflicts are another thing. If a PR starts to have conflicts, so now you have to go resolve that conflict before you can move on. Fragmented visibility is just about you have multiple people involved in any kind of a process. every point in that process is going to be something that can take up time and cause that thing to go slower. And obviously there's context switching, right? You've got your PRs in a hosting service, you've got your IDE, you've got your Git client, you've got all these places that you're working. The more you have to switch around, the more those feedback loops start to lengthen out and the longer it takes you to get things done. So what we're going to talk about today, if you go on to the next slide, is how Launchpad and Code Suggest can help to solve these. So really, we're talking about trying to do a better job of reviewing and having a more flexible review process with Code Suggest, using tools like Launchpad to get better visibility on what PRs are out there, kind of what the state they're in, and keep you from having to switch around a bunch to kind of get those things done. So let's just go into the demo. I think we're set up here to do a demo. Rather just show you what we're talking about than look at bullet points. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we're going to take a look at what I'm talking about here. So you should be seeing GitKraken right now. If you haven't seen it, if you use Focus View in the past, or if you have seen the Launchpad, we now have a tab up here for Launchpad in the GitKraken desktop. And if you open that, that is going to take you into Launchpad. And Launchpad's goal here is to aggregate information about your pull requests and your issues that are all associated with the work that you're doing. And it's really about aggregating that information across multiple repositories. So instead of having to dive into each repo to see which PRs are part of that repo, this uses our hosting integrations to pull that information into one place. So you can see that across all of the repos that I have connected to GitHub, I have, and these are obviously demos, so don't yell at me for having all of these test PRs that are ready to merge, but it's showing me that I have 6 that are ready to merge. I have 7 that have unassigned reviewers. These are things that I would want to go take care of so that I can unblock my team, so that I can get this PR moving on into the next stage. And if there's no assigned reviewers, that's going to keep that PR from progressing. So we try to take these PRs in and categorize them by really common categories that would help you understand what needs to be done. If I need to resolve conflicts on some, I should go do that. If they need my review, someone else has requested a review from me, this is really the personal view, and you'll see that I'm in the personal view over here of all of the PRs that are important to me and what state they're in, so that I can see what those are and then take action on those. And you'll see on the right side, we have the calls to action for each status. So if these are ready to merge, I could just initiate that merge here and merge that pull request using the GitHub API without having to jump out and go to GitHub to do that. So the scenario that we're going to test here with Launchpad is, Jonathan has created a pull request, and he's assigned me as a reviewer. So I want to show you a little bit about how that shows up in Launchpad, and then how we can use our new feature, Code Suggest, to do a more flexible review and suggestion on that than you might typically be able to do in GitHub, where in GitHub, when you want to make suggestions on code, you have to kind of go in and use their little text box and write in the text box or in some markdown the code that you might want them to change. And that's helpful if you have a one-line change. But if there's a bigger change, or if they put a function in the wrong file, GitHub isn't really going to allow you to make a suggestion on a file that wasn't included in the original PR. So Code Suggest is going to provide a way to do that. The other main challenge with reviewing PRs and making suggestions is that if you do go into your IDE to write code and to make suggestions, and you push that code up to the remote, well, it's not really a suggestion at that point. You've kind of written that to the history of the repository. And so what we wanted to find is a way that would let people have more flexibility in suggesting code changes to a PR, and give the author of that PR the agency to say, like, yes, I do want to accept that, or I don't want to accept those changes. And so we're going to show you what that looks like in Code Suggest. What I do want to show really quick in Launchpad before we get there is we have a new team kind of mode in Launchpad. And what that is it's letting you go in to your Launchpad and pick a workspace. If you haven't used workspaces before, workspaces are our way of grouping repositories together. And I'm going to go into this GitKraken Help Center workspace. And this workspace contains a bunch of repos that we use for maintaining our Help Center and our documentation. And you can see that now it's not just showing me my personal information, it's showing me all of the people on this team and inside of this workspace that have pull requests. So if I was a team lead or an engineering manager, I could come in here and see like, what is the status of all the PRs on this team that are in this workspace? When was the last time these were updated? Kind of what's the state that these are in? So just wanted to show that really quickly. If any of you out there are engineering managers or team leads, the team version of the Launchpad is something that we're developing to cater to that use case. Maybe you might want to use this as a stand-up tool to kind of show the state of all the PRs. We're really working to make this valuable for that use case. But what I'm trying to find is a PR that was assigned to me from Jonathan. So I'm going to switch back into my personal Launchpad. You can see that I'm still filtered by that GitKraken Help Center. And there is one thing that needs my review. So I can really easily see that, hey, there's this review that I have that Jonathan requested me to go check out. So rather than jumping out into GitHub, I can review this pull request right now inside of GitKraken. And when I click this, it's going to take me into the repository. It's going to put me into review mode, which if you haven't used this yet in GitKraken Desktop, it's really valuable. We've centered a lot of the UI for pull requests and reviewing pull requests around showing you just that information. So you'll see that, I'm in this branch. This branch has this PR associated with it, and I'm now reviewing that PR. So it's showing me the changes, the kind of combined changes across everything in this PR that Jonathan has. So I can click through these files and review them. It's okay, looks like he removed some information about bug fixes. And then he wrote something here about stashing on the cloud, but something that I noticed is that he wrote it in this cherry pick file. So really this should be in our stashing file. So I'm going to suggest that he change this. Now, if I was in GitHub and I wanted to do this, I would have to go write a note in the code and say like, hey, this whole block should actually be in this other file. And then Jonathan would have to get that message and then go back and make that change. Well, with code suggestions, we can just do that right here. So I'm going to edit this file, and I'm going to say all of this stuff about stashing on the cloud actually shouldn't be here. So I'm going to save those changes. So now I'm saying, okay, this file is going to change to do that. And you can see there is no file over here for stashing. So I can use my command palette here in GitKraken Desktop. And I'm going to edit a file, and I'm going to look for stashing. There's that file. So this is the file that those changes actually should have gone into. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to paste that stash on the cloud set right there and save those changes. So I'm in review mode. I've made some changes, and GitKraken is kind of remembering all of those file changes. And down here, this button is saying, hey, suggest those 2 file changes to this PR. So I'm going to click that, and what it's going to do is it's going to show me the combination of all those changes. So you can see that in the cherry pick file, I removed all of those changes. In the stashing file, I added all those changes. And it's going to create a description here, and it will let me even add something here. So if I wanted to say like, move the stashing details into stashing file. So what this is going to do is it's going to package these up into a cloud patch essentially that gets sent to Jonathan. So I'm going to send these. It says it's sent successfully. I can copy the link if I wanted to send that link directly to Jonathan and have him go view it. But at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Jonathan, and I'm going to let him show you what that looks like on the other side. And I'm going to try to be his voice while he walks through this. All right. So Jonathan is now in his GitKraken Desktop, and he's on this branch. He has that PR. You can see that that PR is listed there for this branch. And if he clicks it, it's going to take him into the PR view inside of GitKraken Desktop. So he can actually see the comments that are coming through from GitHub. And there's a comment on there that you can see where I said, move the stashing details into the stashing file. So if he clicks that code suggestion link, it's going to open that up in gitkraken.dev. Now, he could have opened this in GitKraken Desktop, but we want to show you what this looks like, because if you send this to someone who doesn't have GitKraken, they're not using GitKraken Desktop, they're not using GitLens in VS Code, and they just click this link from GitHub, it's going to open it in gitkraken.dev. And in gitkraken.dev, we have this really rich diffing experience where now Jonathan, who might not even be a GitKraken user can see, hey, Justin suggested some changes. He left this note here, and here are the changes for each of the files that he suggested to me. So Jonathan can review those changes, see those diffs inside of the browser. And I'm just going to assume, Jonathan, that you're good with these changes because you can't talk. So we're going to go ahead and just accept these. So what's happening is down on the bottom left, it's essentially a commit panel. It's saying, Jonathan is choosing to accept these changes, and he's going to commit these and push these to the repo, rather than me, Justin, the reviewer, making these changes and pushing them to the repo for him. So he's going to write a commit message, write in some details on that commit message. And when he's ready, he can commit these suggestions. And what it's actually going to do is use GitHub's API to commit that change to that branch on GitHub. So if he went back to GitHub, he should see that that change was committed. And there it is. So that's a really quick overview of, kind of how Launchpad is designed to help you find the things that you need to do related to pull requests, and then how Code Suggest is a much more powerful, flexible way to review code and to suggest changes on that code outside of GitHub, keeping you kind of in context wherever you are. Now, the Code Suggest will work inside of GitKraken Desktop. It will also work inside of GitLens if you use GitLens. And we even have some of that functionality in the GitKraken CLI if you choose to use the CLI. So we've got about 6 minutes left. I don't know if we want to take questions, if there's anything else that anyone would like to see. Is Melise still with us?
Yep, I'm still here. So it looks like we got some great questions in the Q&A over here. So let's start with the first one. Let's go with Daniel Speck. I'm going to throw it up on the screen here so you can see it. Let's see. Are you able to see that?
Have we ever worked with CodeStream? We haven't worked with it, but we are very familiar with, kind of how it functions. I'll just see a GitKraken code chat. Yeah, this is something that's come up a lot of times in discussions here in the office and with other customers. It's interesting, one of our CTO actually worked at CodeStream, and some of the feedback that we get about this kind of feature set, like this ability to kind of notate code and like leave comments on code, is that like theoretically it sounds like what people want, but then it kind of atrophies, right? Like these code comments kind of get left behind in code. It kind of starts to create noise. So we are curious about like the concept of it and what we can do to help developers talk about code. And it's something that we just had conversations with the dev team about last week. So any thoughts or feedback where you've either used tools that have been really helpful or tools that haven't been helpful and what you would prefer that they do, we'd love to hear that feedback, because it's something that we're talking about a lot around developers collaborating better around code and really having kind of discussions around code and how that might work. So yes, like we have heard about CodeStream. It's something that we think about a lot, but we recognize some of the shortfalls with it that we're trying to think through and see if there's other ways that we can handle those problems.
Got it. Awesome. It looks like we got another question from Kim Kraft. Let me throw that up.
Not yet compatible or integrate. It should be. Oh, I mean, it should be working with Bitbucket Cloud. I'd have to check on that and just make sure. Yeah, I have to get back to you on that one. It should be working with all of our hosting service providers, but I may be mistaken on that. I see it on mine, so it should be there. If you try Launchpad, you should see an integration for Bitbucket Cloud on there. Can we work with Azure DevOps PRs? Yes, we can. We will pull in PRs and issues from Azure DevOps, or tasks, I think is what they're called in Azure. Way to comment on a line so as we can do in GitHub. No, but that is the kind of next thing on our plate for code suggest is we realize that there is a need to still leave comments on the code. So that's the thing that we're going to be talking about next. Good question.
We got one from Craig.
Is integration with Linear for issues on the roadmap? We are trying to get that in. It's something that we hear a lot from users. And so it's actually the one that comes up the most. So it's definitely on our minds. And we just had a lot of talks last week about where we want to be spending our time. And Linear does keep coming up. Our next step here is to just kind of dive into Linear's API and see how easy it is to kind of weave them into our existing integration ecosystem. But if I had to bet, that would be the next one that we do if we continue to expand our integrations.
And
any plans for AI integrations in order to suggest comments? We're always thinking about AI. We have AI code or commit message generation inside of GKD, inside of the desktop, and inside of GitLens. GitLens even has a little bit more with the ability to kind of explain code. So yes, anywhere that we can leverage those existing AI connections that we have, if you've got something wired up to your OpenAI API, or in GitLens, I think they support Anthropic and Gemini now.
Yep.
So yes, anywhere that we can leverage those in code suggestions, we're still in early stages on code suggestions. So any suggestions that you have for what might be helpful and what you're looking for would help. AI is definitely something that makes sense in that place, because if you're going to suggest something, it would be really easy to just kind of click a button and let it get started for you, and then accept those yourself and then suggest those to that person.
Yeah. And just a side note on that, I think in the latest release of GitLens coming up sometime next month, we're looking at GitHub Copilot too. So yeah. Looks like we got another question.
Can you limit the tokens being sent to OpenAI? It's getting expensive. We don't have any of that functionality built in. I would assume that you could do that on OpenAI's end, but if they don't, and that's a concern, it's something that we can definitely consider, right? If you say, I don't want GitKraken to send more than X number of requests per month or whatever, it's something that we could think about. I would expect that limitation would be on OpenAI's API, but good question. Something we can look into if that's a concern. Any plans for closer integration with Unreal Engine 5? In what way, I guess would be my question there. Is this in kind of like how the projects are structured in Unreal and how that works? Is this more around like LFS? Not sure exactly what that question is for.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right. Well, it looks like we are at time. Carlos, don't know if you're typing up a response to Justin's question. We'll give you 20 seconds here. But Justin, thanks for going through everything. I think Jonathan had to drop, or he might be hiding himself from the mic right now. But thanks, everybody, for sticking around through the technical difficulties and everything. There's Jonathan. Big smile. Nice. All right. Well, everyone, thanks again for joining this workshop. Keep an eye out for the next upcoming workshop in June, which will be a GitLens workshop. And we are going to be doing something very cool with the new Launchpad functionality that dropped across the different GitLens surfaces, GitKraken desktop. We'll even take a look at Code Suggest, which is an awesome feature as well that we touched on a little bit here today. So yeah, stay tuned. And if you want a copy of this recording, make sure to check your email. It will be emailed out to everyone here. And if you want to see previous workshops, they'll also be on the YouTube channel under a playlist called Workshops. And real quick, Justin, Carlos did get back. He said something like an add-on directly in the engine.
Yeah, I mean, we're always considering where we might expand out to reach into other platforms. We're currently looking at JetBrains extension for GitLens. So, if there are places that make sense, that there are enough devs that would want some of this functionality, like we're keeping our eyes open for those opportunities. So thanks for adding that one to the list.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you at the next workshop.
Thanks everyone.
Let's see. All right, here I am. Thank y'all so much for tuning into today's live stream. We will be live same time, same place tomorrow and throughout the rest of this week. Let me see if I can get these banners out of my face. All right, very cool, very cool. Yeah, as we have on the ticker on the bottom, definitely don't forget about our DEVEXDAYS24 coupon, where you can get some really big savings on GitKraken Pro seats. So make sure to check that out. Tomorrow, we will be doing some more live builds with Chris, as well as some more GitCon Rewind content. Did want to shout out, though, today, since we had our workshop, that all of our past workshops are available on our YouTube channel. If you're watching us live on YouTube now, you know how to get there. But for anyone on any other social platforms, you can just search up GitKraken on YouTube, and you should see us right up at the top. We have an entire playlist dedicated to all of our workshop series, as well as I dropped a link in the YouTube chat for our workshop page on our website, so you can see what's up next in the queue. For August, we have a really exciting one planned, all about how to be a GitKraken desktop and GitLens power user, from some folks that are definitely very experienced in both platforms. So super excited for that one. Thank you again for tuning in, for dropping some comments in the chat. We are looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody.